I'm Tim, welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the FP Journe Centigraphe Sport entirely in discontinued aluminum. You can see and you can purchase this FP Journe chronograph on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with accessories included in the sale, high resolution images, and of course complete pricing details for this FP Journe Centigraphe Sport in aluminum. Now, originally released in 2012, previewed in 2011, the Centigraphe Sport entirely in aluminum was discontinued after 2014. It's a surprisingly large watch by Journe standards, 42mm across the round of the case from 9 to 3 o'clock, not including the chronograph rocker or the winding crown. The watch is one of Journe's largest, but it doesn't wear that way. With only 56 grams of mass, entirely in aluminum, right down to the plates and bridges of the movement, it's an extraordinary watch. It almost wears like an ultra-thin Swatch watch. It has that kind of wrist feel, but it has far more wrist presence. Now, in terms of thickness, only 11mm thick. You'll note the domed profile of the bezel. It easily slides underneath any kind of dress cuff, formal sleeves. It is fairly broad from extremity to extremity. You can see the case is not large across the wrist, but the bracelet will not pull straight down, so these outer links, which flare a little bit, give the watch a extremity to extremity span of 52mm across the wrist. So it does actually have a fairly large stance, but again, the flexibility of the bracelet after those first two links and the lightness of it mean you could probably wear this securely and with confidence and style down to a wrist as small as, I'm going to say, 14.5 centimeters in circumference based on my experience. Now, the three-link design of the bracelet is handsome, logical, and supplemented with rubber inserts to create a little bit of two-tone effect, a little bit of differentiation to break up the mass. It's all satin finished. There's no high polish on the watch, so Journe uses black and silver for contrast and to great effect. Now, the clasp is a handsome piece, nicely built, aluminum like the rest of the watch. It features a double deploying action such that you can more easily buckle it to a smaller wrist. I always like to say a double deployant, which doesn't have the one big wrist pinching fold, is better for smaller wrists, so Journe thoughtful here. You'll also note that it is a clamshell type, a rubberized cover blazoned with FP Journe and his corporate motto. He did invent it and he did make it. Now, these first sport models in aluminum were discontinued principally because FP Journe decided ultimately it was not worth his while to struggle with aluminum. It was rough on tools, it was rough on fabricators, it was not something that lent itself even to his exceptionally low volume of production, and this is coming from a manufacturer who makes 800 to 900 watches a year. So if you own one of these discontinued watches, materially they're fantastic, but there will never be any more of them. And that's the difference between the current sport line. The current sport line is all of titanium, though the movements are still aluminum. Now, you can see the dial of this watch is overtly sporty. Journe is a traditionalist, but he's not a conservative. That's the dichotomy of FP Journe. He's a traditionalist in the tools he uses, how he designs and conceives a watch, how his workshops are set up, in some of the materials that he won't use, such as ceramic and silicon. But he's not a conservative, and again, the design of this watch and the concept of his movement in this watch, the 1506, both bear that out. He is not a conservative, and you can see with skeletonized sub-registers, you get a better view of the movement when the watch is on your wrist than you do with the conventional Centigraphe. Of course, a 1/100th of a second chronograph. You can see that foudroyant hand being driven at 10 o'clock. The 20-second hand right next to it, and 10 minutes at the base of the dial. This is a chronograph designed to time very small portions of extremely short duration. Now, you can see there's a lot of color going on. In addition to the transparency, there's polished gold, there's silver, there's white, there's anthracite, and shocks of red. It's a handsome, thoughtful, adventurous, and yet beautifully balanced dial. And of course, those signature biomorphic Journe hands at center here with luminescence, so you can see this watch at night. Not universal on Journe's watches. You can see the rocker for the chronograph, a patented mechanism. It is intuitive to use, and it's something, once used, that you wish you had on all of your chronograph watches. So much more sensible than the conventional stop-start arrangement. It really is time to get with the 21st century, and FP Journe is already there in terms of chronograph design. Now, the movement itself is manually wound with an 80-hour power reserve, circular Cote de Genève across the bridges, a tight and even perlage across the base plate. You can see that the 80-hour power reserve manually wound chronograph also has a barrel that directly drives both the chronograph drivetrain and the civil time. And this is how FP Journe achieves something like what JLC achieves with the Duomet, being able to run the chronograph without any diminution of amplitude at the balance. Now, because he doesn't have a second mainspring barrel, unlike the Duomet, power reserve is affected. The watch will run for 24 hours with the chronograph operating from a full wind. But again, given that the largest interval on the dial on the chronograph registers is 10 minutes, that shouldn't be a problem. For those 10 minutes, it will keep exceptional time, civil time and chronograph, with no loss of amplitude. You'll also note the interesting positioning of the barrel at center, highly unconventional. It's also very handsome, and it acts as the heart of a watch. I would say in this case, it is the soul of the watch as well. The balance, usually considered to be the heartbeat of the watch, seems to play second fiddle to the power supply here, as it really does take pride of place. But the balance is an exceptional arrangement. A very large moment of inertia. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. And again, the accuracy here is attained by using that huge moment of inertia, a big balance, and also a free sprung architecture that will take and hold a very precise regulation even in the face of shocks and disruptions on the wrist. Handsome, exclusive, fun, and quite frankly, one of the hottest collectibles of the moment. This FP Journe Centigraphe Sport entirely in discontinued aluminum can be seen and purchased on our website.